that
I'm sorry, I forgot to record, Carl, just interrupted you. So Christina asked me to record the session. If it's okay for everyone, I just hit the bottom of record. Please go ahead, continue.
What I was saying is many of the things that the book says that are in the book are, in my view, identical to the Christian beliefs. Now, certainly not everything, because there's a divergence between Muslims and Christianity, the key part being the divinity of Christ. But so much of the rest of it is just exactly the same. If I didn't know that I was reading a book about the Quran and Muslim and Islam, I would think I'd be reading something that was written by a Christian author who was reporting on the basic tenets of that religion. So that's number one. Number two is I've been really intrigued with the Arabic terms, and I've tried to say them, but I'm sure I have not been pronouncing them correctly. And I would be interested in hearing some of these terms correctly pronounced in the Arabic, because it seems from what I've read in the book that the Arabic is I won't say it's essential to an understanding of Islam, but it helps one along that pathway. But to go back to what I said initially, I've just been amazed and fascinated and inspired by the book and by everything I've learned.
Thanks so much, Carl, for sharing your insights about the book. And for the Arabic one, in fact, yes, absolutely. There are different songs, even though designed around the names of Allah in Arabic, where it's like more called, like it's not the song, I will say it is more religious songs, like the hymns in maybe Christianity. So where you can, I might share some of them with you, Carl, later on, to search on YouTube to find the appropriate ones that it might help you, where you can, get the original sound of those words in Arabic. Most of them, I think, is turning around God's name. There are many, many names of God we cannot really limit, but in Islam, overall, Muslims, they believe, okay, there are 99 names of God as a kind of symbol of the all names. And those names are being part of their constant remembrance, where you attach to your heart. I think part of the chapter 3, it's very interesting. It tells, it's very amazing. I found that was really interesting. And she is kind of reminding, suggesting something. She says, next time when you find yourself in a conflict, ask yourself, what was I needing that I didn't receive? So think about what you really want, what you need, and you don't have it. Then write down all those struggles on a paper. Take 5 to 7 minutes. That's her recommendation. Then she is recommending to find the match of those problems, struggles you have through the meaning of God's name. And she gives example, maybe if you were needing respect, there is a name for God, it's called Al-Mu'iz, the honorer. So then you keep reciting Al-Mu'iz, Ya Mu'iz, Ya Mu'iz, Ya Mu'iz. That is like in Islam, where you kind of constantly repeating that, so that you say the honorer, if you kind of feel that you are not respected enough. So that's her recommendation. Or she is telling, like, if you were needing love or forgiveness, try the names Al-Wadud, the most loving. That's the meaning of Al-Wadud. Ya Wadud, Ya Wadud, Ya Wadud. So that is constantly reciting that name will match to your need. That's Carl, I think, what's kind of she's recommending, part of Who Are You chapter, in the end. You remember, for every chapter in the end, she has some practice, some suggestions that she kind of invites the readers to join in different ways if they feel comfortable. I think in that respect that, yes, Carl, this is something, the names in Arabic, it's kind of really here it's more in English, it's difficult to get it. Let's say it's Al-Mu'iz, M-U-I-Z. Most probably an American will not be able to say Mu'iz, the way that it is in Arabic. So therefore, maybe getting the original one in Arabic might really help to connect. So I'll try to share, a couple links with you, Carl, later on. Hopefully it will help. Thank you. Okay, now let's turn to other participants. Who else wants to take turn and share their comments or reflections? It could be about chapter 2 or other chapters, because really at this point, overall about the book, because within like maybe 45 minutes, it might be difficult to go chapter by chapter. So you can simply share whatever you feel from the book. If not, I have like my book is here, like with all lot of marks. I will definitely be glad to go ahead and jump, share a lot. But I love to hear from you guys, because this is kind of book club. If you have read, and then if you feel you can really share. Yes.
I want to second most of everything that Carl said. I mean, the bottom line for our religion, your religion, world religions, everywhere, I think, is God is love. And it's interesting how the different religions have come to that same conclusion. But I just have to insert that I thought I was about halfway through the book, and I see I've only really completed 4 chapters, and there are 12, so I'm really only a third of the way through the book. So I believe we're going to need one more session if we're going to get through it. But I'm so happy to be inspired to read this book, because the author's writing is just beautiful. And I think her interpretations of the Quran make me want to try to read that, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get through that because I can't read Arabic. This is a translated copy, but I don't think the translator is going to be as beautiful writing as this author did. That's my 2 cents.
I think I agree that the author has a beautiful, style of writing that is very impressive. I think last session when I started introduction, I said, through my own studies and reading, I have never seen a book in this nature about Islam, because there are many translated books to English. When I tell in English, not there are many beautiful books in different languages, in Arabic, in Turkish, about Islam, in definitely many languages where the Muslims are, speaking in majority. But in English, this is one of the best books ever written in such a very articulated and very well, in terms of the language and interpretation. So I'm equally very impressed with her style and with her interpretation. But I think this part of a chapter is also telling, Quran. So it is very interesting that when she's talking about the mysterious word of the Quran, so she kind of, the chapter says the mysterious word of the Quran. So the Quran itself is like a word. It's like a universe. It's not a book. And here part of on page 90, she is telling about Quran very interestingly. Maybe this is true for other holy books as well. She says, we don't just read the Quran. The Quran reads us. It looks into our hearts, and based on the purity of our intentions and the capacity of our spirits, it unveils or covers the soul of its secrets. So it is very interesting that the way that she looks to Quran, it is, many Muslim scholars agree on this interpretation. It's like an ocean. It's like a universe that, depending how much, you dive into it, that you can actually extract, you can collect from it. But the translation is definitely that the Quran was revealed in Arabic legislation. There are many different translations to different languages. Therefore, it will not be definitely the same. It depends how it's translated. There are many loss of the meaning in the translation. And also beyond, Muslims believe Quran in Arabic is a kind of, like the analogy is like, think about the internet. So like if in internet, if you do something linkable, so it's active, you click on a word, it might be like Greenville Library, right? If you click on the word Greenville Library, if it's linked, it will open up the entire library. So if it is not linked, it's just a statement, Greenville Library. It has nothing in it. So Muslims believe, interesting, in the Quran has much more than its literal translation, literal words. It's like active link. It depends how much you dive. It depends how much you really get into it. It might opens up itself. So therefore, part of the chapter 4, when she talks about the mysterious word of the Quran, she gives a lot of different examples how to approach the Quran, how to read the Quran. I hope that her recommendations will help if you are planning to buy a translation of Quran and read a Quran. But for the English readers, I will say there is like a copy of the translation called today's Quran in today's English. So you can buy that one from Amazon or from some other places. It will be kind of a plain English translation. But also I recommended that you buy annotated version, because the 101 translation most of the time will really not make much sense. So you need more annotative version of translation.
I have a translation question. Is Arabic alphabet the same as Turkish?
No, Turkish is
two different alphabets.
Yes, correct. Like Arabic is
Latin.
Turkish is using the Latin alphabet but Arabic has its own alphabet. It's Arabic. It's different. Okay, who else? Please jump in. I want to have more. If not, I can start from somewhere to warm you up, because it is like when I read this book, I kind of find myself lost spiritually. So it is very interesting. It is. I just want to
Can't be
start.
read quickly. You can't speed read it.
Exactly right. Exactly. You have to digest. There are many deep statements. You kind of have to reflect very deeply on it. Exactly. So like here on page 45, I just want to start with some statements I highlighted to share with you, but please stop me and just make any comments or any, any parts you want to share, jump in, please. That's I love to hear from you. So here part of a statement from Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing upon him. Allah does not look at your appearance or your wealth, but rather he looks at your hearts and actions. This is an hadith. It is a beautiful hadith that kind of summarizes how God engaged in the creation, and God really views, the human beings. That we most of the time, we are really impressed with the people's wealth, with their status, right, with their beauty, with their handsome, whatever is kind of the appearance, we are that impressed. And that's how we engage into relationship depending on those things. But relationship between God and the servants are different. It's not based on those things. It's based on what's at your heart. So heart is the center to connect to God in Islam. So then in the Quran, chapter 26, part of this, it continues, it says, Quran says that only he or she will prosper. Then she puts the quote of the translation of the Quran, quote, that brings to Allah a sound heart. That's very important. So the prosperity is a sound heart in Islam, what it is. So this is something very, I would say, in especially this materialistic life where we kind of measure the success with wealth, with the income, with the status, right? It is very difficult to measure the success with an individual's heart, right? So then, I mean, if we just kind of really simply engage in this with people in this philosophy, it will make a huge, huge difference. So there is another part about who you are to God. She tells your worth does not come just by your doing. It comes through the perfect God who created you. That is, therefore, she says, stop calculating your worth with finite numbers when you were created by an infinite God who brought you to life with an everlasting spirit of light. And she continues, remember, forever cannot be reduced no matter how much you subtract. Remember, you are not currency to fall and rise in value. Your value is not defined by worldly labels. Because although God created this world for you, he says, I created you for myself. So that is when kind of looking the value. Today, I think last time I shared one of my personal struggle, and I had the same struggle today as well. I was driving from downtown Greenville to home. I know some of you are, I'm sure, that not from Greenville where I live. On 385 highway, there was just a car in front of me. We were just stopping at the light before we entered the highway. So there was the person in the car was kind of shaking the car so badly. It seems that was a kind of very loud music. She kind of, it was he or she, I couldn't figure out in the beginning, but was kind of, I feel from the back, I see they kind of jumping and moving the car very uplifts, that definitely, it kind of caught my attention. And in the same time, I looked at the mirrors, the car on the right and left, there was no mirrors. Somehow there was an accident. So the car was in the traffic without right and left mirrors. It's in fact, maybe not legal because the car most probably, initially I thought it was a lady, but later on it was a gentleman. Most probably he didn't have either time to fix or maybe doesn't, he doesn't have really financial ability to. So somehow the way that I drove behind of that car, like for a long time, and we stopped at a couple, lights at the same time. I was kind of looking at that car and looking, that person's constantly kind of with the music, very kind of excited, like you see that it's shaking the car. And I was a little biased in the beginning by looking his car, but by looking his attitude and behavior, by looking, that's our human biasness, right? Then this kind of philosophy of what I have been reading to you about, then I said, look, how can I kind of really look at this person through his car, that his mirrors are broken and he's kind of listening in the traffic, very loud music. I should not judge him by then. Remember, I said, Akif, he was created by God. Remember, he is created by God. If God created him, it is intentional. If it's intentional, he's worth to be created. He is worth in the eye of God. So it stops everything. It's a very powerful thing when you look at the lens of this philosophy to the human beings, and then you remove the barriers. And it kind of really allows you to have love, compassion, and to connect. So it is but very difficult. We have a lot of biases. Therefore, you have to struggle a lot. Therefore, part of this book, it's telling about the jihad, right? I don't know if you kind of read that part, because about who are you, it's testing life is in Islam, life is a test. And therefore, it tells about struggle, holy struggle, which is jihad and Islam. In fact, literally, it means holy struggle. But unfortunately, it has been mistranslated in the West as kind of like the holy war. No, there is an element of jihad. If you struggle, let's say now for Ukraine, right? Now we all praise the Ukrainians, we pray for them. Okay, why did really Russia invade and kill these innocent people for greed of power, and we all have the sympathy towards the Ukrainians. We pray for them, right? And then we all praise them because they defend their countries. In that context, you can call this is a jihad because it's a holy struggle, you know. So I think jihad in that context could mean holy struggle, but this is the lesser jihad. Part of what it's kind of put hadith also in the book, it mentions lesser jihad and greater jihad. I think my jihad today was greater jihad, you know. My jihad today, when I was driving that car, to look at that person and just to I will say, adjust my feeling in my heart towards that person through the lens of God's creation is difficult, is very difficult, because you have to go to that struggle almost every day and very, very many times. So therefore, I think about who are you section of the book is so powerful. I think it is worth to read and read and read again, than to first of all have understand your value, yourself, right? Who am I? And then also look at the other people in the same lens. So to try to appreciate their value as a kind of reflections of God's creation is so powerful to me. So any comments for this part, or just please jump in, if you have anything you want to share.
Well, what you said there is supportive of the point I made earlier, which is that so much of this is identical with Christian thought. I mean, the idea of looking at what's in someone's heart instead of what's in their bank account is fundamental to Christianity. And it was fundamental to Islam as well. So when I read that, that quote that you just gave is one of the first things that got me thinking about this, is because it is so common to Christian belief.
I believe, like, when you look at the Jesus life and stories about him, you cannot think anything differently, Carl. You are absolutely right. That's his principles, his teachings are very aligned, with what is in this book. Absolutely right. So I want you to read, like on page 30. It's interesting because we are talking about the heart, right? Most of the time, people think spirituality is a luxury. It is something that, you have to, it is somewhere that it's not my business. Okay. I'm not there. It is not who I am. But there's on page 30, the last two sentences of from Aru Barzak, a poet, she quotes, and that poet tells, quote, "You are not a human being meant to be spiritual. You are a spiritual being living this human being miracle." That's interesting approach. That is, most of the time we perceive in other way, right? We are a human being, let's struggle to be spiritual, right? But what this poet tells is exactly the opposite. You are a spiritual being living this human being miracle. It is very powerful to me, and completely it makes sense to me when you look at it from this angle.
Right across from that quote on page 31 is the quote of the Zen master that I don't know how to pronounce his name, that says, "Enlightenment is when a wave realizes it is the ocean." I just love that line. It's so short, but it says so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, I cannot read like that one Zen, but it is, you see, it's a Zen master. It's not a Muslim, but it is absolutely, just beautifully states what Islam, really teaches to its followers. Absolutely right, because especially throughout the book, I think this summarizes: you are a wave, God is ocean. You are part of, you are part of the ocean. You're right. that you are part of the God, and because part of who you are. And it is when it tells about in the book, when it tells about Adam and Adam, Eve, and devil. I see if you are just on the following page when it tells. Hold on, let's over here. Okay, here it tells page 39. It says Adam was honored before he performed a single good deed. In Islam, the story of the Adam's creation is very similar what the Old Testament tells, but there are also significant differences. There are similarities and differences, but it is the approach that she tells. Adam was created because he did not perform something good that God honored him. He honored him from the very beginning, and then he asked the angels to prostrate to him because based on the breath of God, and Islam is called ruh, like his soul, like the breath of God, or we can call soul of, it's very difficult to really capture and relate to the humanity, but God tells he breathed to Adam from his own soul, his own ruh, blown into him, and the innate goodness, the fitra that God planted within him. So that is the part of like the same way that what makes Adam so worthy that the angels prostrated to him, because God's blown into him from his own being, from his own divine being. And that's where I think it comes to that one, that was a wave enter into our flesh from the ocean. So that's what the Muslims believe. A wave came from God, from his divine being, as blown into the human being. Therefore, we are, when you look at Rumi, by the way, she quotes a lot from Rumi. He is a very mystic, Muslim scholar and poet. And his entire philosophy is, we as a human beings are separated from our origins. Who is our origin? Is God. So we are really separated from God to this life, and we will reunite after we die. So we're kind of, the wave is gonna pour into the ocean. Put this way, when you die, you become ocean again, even though this life we don't feel it, but there you will do it. And therefore, Rumi, when he died, he said, my death will be my wedding night. So basically it's called Shebi Aruz. Shebi Aruz means the wedding night. Therefore, on September 17, when he died, even though in Turkey, every year there is a commemoration of his death, but in more celebrative, celebratory way, celebrates his death because he united God. That's what he kind of really told his followers. In that regard, I think what like the Zen master, he is telling, he's not a Muslim, is very alike. You say this, what in Islam, in the Buddhism, it seems very parallel, definitely.
Everything that Rumi says in that book, every time she quotes him, it's great, because it's only a sentence long, but it is so enlightening. Tell me more about Rumi, because this is the first time I've ever heard of him.
Rumi is one of the greatest poets that really emerged in Islamic world. And he was originally, he has written, his Masnawi is the collection of his poems in Persian. And in fact, he is one of the most translated in the West. And then his collections, his poetry has been translated to the English, and one of the best-selling poets in the West, by the way. So there is a book called by Colem and Bark, The Essentials of Rumi. If you want to, it's really a nice English book. You can order on Amazon. It's called The Essentials of Rumi by Colem and Bark. you can order that one and just kind of really get more insight of the Rumi. But his Masnavi, his collections of poetry in Persian, is like the Shakespeare's, I would say, like in English, the Shakespeare, but then you can think the spiritual version of Shakespeare in terms of the language, in terms of the beauty of the poetry that he had in Persian. So he is a very mystical, spiritual, scholar, an Islamic scholar, and he in fact transformed like millions of people throughout the history with his writings, with his philosophy, with his understanding of Quran, with his understanding of Islam. So because eventually religion is one, but it becomes many depending of our understanding and interpretation, right? So which is the right version is all depending how you approach to the religion. But I would personally find Rumi's version of understanding of Islam is my preference. It is, I think, that one of the best way of understanding Islam and the Quran. So Carl, I will say, like, you can definitely, I highly recommend you to learn more about Rumi by getting that book. Definitely, there are much more. If you go further, you can buy his Masnavi, which is his collection of the poetry, but it is a very large one. It might take months to finish and reflect it. I was really okay. Here you go. Yes, Bob. That's exactly, yes. The Essentials Rumi, Column and Bark. That's the book. Yes, correct. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so and here part of, again, who are you on page 57, that's from Rumi. It is interesting. That's where it kind of, she quotes beautifully from Rumi and gets his philosophy. And it says, polishing the mirror of the heart. Okay. And she's kind of telling about similar to a mirror that rusts when it is not polished. The heart can become rusty when we are consumed by thoughts of self-management, fail to polish it with the remembrance of God. That is very interesting. And Islam, in fact, that's exactly what it summarizes beautifully. Heart is the essentials. And so if you do not function, if you do not work around your heart, and it's really become rusty, when it becomes rusty, then it does not really receive the signals that you are supposed to receive and to translate into spirituality, into the spiritual pleasure, into the connection with God. Because even though you carry the heart, but that heart is not spiritually functioning, only physically functioning, pumps the blood to your body, beats, but does not really function more than a piece of meat. But then in Islam, heart is much more than the physical understanding. And to keep it polished in Islam, it is only that's kind of through the remembrance of God. Therefore, it says constantly reciting God's name, engaging in the worship, engaging in reflections, engaging in meditation, where you completely polish your heart, and then where you receive the pleasure. And once you get that pleasure of spirituality, now people are seeking the pleasure, the happiness, right? Therefore, they try to consume many materialistic things. But the true spiritual travelers, let me put this way, once they receive that spiritual pleasure through the heart, and to them, the physical pleasure is not a true pleasure anymore. It is a subjective, but that's many mystical Muslims where they travel to the heart. That's interesting. I'm using this, traveling to your heart. What does it mean? Because it is a journey. It's a journey that you travel to your heart. And she tells, by the way, over here, in fact, it has been said the distance between our head and our heart is approximately 18 inches, literally. But it is arguably the longest journey we will spiritually ever take. So that 18 inches from the mind to heart is the longest journey you can ever take it. Therefore, this is a long, long journey, because we are most of the time, we are a traveler of mind, and we just really stop in the way of going to the heart. And most of the time, we do not really arrive to the destiny. Okay, so therefore, this is very interesting. And also, she quotes about very interesting verse in the Quran, chapter 22, verse 46. It says, it is not the eyes that are blind, but the hearts. Interesting. Quran tells they have the eyes, they see. This is not the blind, but they have the heart which is blind. They do not see. So this is a kind of translation in the Quran, because Quran tells a lot to really have the vision of your heart, seeing through the eyes of your heart, right? Seeing through the eyes of your heart. But if your eyes are blind, how can you see? If it is rusty, if it is closed, then you cannot see it. Therefore, when you do not see what you do, you deny. When you do not see, you deny. Okay, you say, there's no such a pleasure. There's no such kind of really thing, because I don't see it. It doesn't exist. So it's easy to go denial of such spiritual journey, such functioning of the heart, because you kind of think it's not there. So that is kind of very interesting. I just want to bring to your attention. And there is also a hadith in the same line that she quotes on the page 58. It says, part of the hadith, Prophet Muhammad says, quote, in everybody there is a piece of flesh. If it is healthy, the whole body is healthy. And if it is sick, the whole body is sick. Beware, it is the heart. Okay, so you see, those are kind of the things from the Quran, from the hadith of Muhammad, and she is, beautifully articulates this into our understanding to really, tell about the functions and the purpose. Again, any comments, you are welcome to jump. I didn't mean to really, just kind of like to talk too much, but as a kind of teacher, when I see the students are silent, then I have to really, feel into it, right? So it is, I love it to hear from you, but if not, I will continue. But please feel free anytime to jump and make comment, to share your own understandings. So here is another one that on page 65, it says from a mystic, Persian mystic, Imam Junayd al-Baghdadi, that is another very famous one, quote, a Muslim is like the earth. Even if impurities are thrown on it, it will blossom into green pasture. So we are called to be like a date tree, so rooted in the love, so that when people throw stones at you, you reply with fruits that taste sweet. So do not live your life in reaction to what people have done to you, but live your life in gratitude for all that God has done for you. And it is telling about a story from Jesus over here on page 68. This is beautiful, beautiful story about Jesus. So, and it tells Jesus and his faithful disciples entered a town where the villagers started to scream at Jesus with profanities and false accusations that were not befitting of his holy stature, kind demeanor, and gentle heart. Jesus turned his face towards them, returning every harsh remark with a merciful prayer to God for their happiness and success in life. One of his disciples turned to Jesus and said, "Oh, Master, why are you praying for these terrible people? How are you not filled with righteous anger toward their hateful remarks?" Jesus kindly looked at his disciple and replied, "My dear brother, I can only spend from what I have in my purse." This is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So, I mean, there are like the verses in the Quran. It tells everyone exhibits its own character, what you have within you. And I think people like Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, that's when you look at their biography, when you look at their life, that's consistently they have acted in the same way, because they didn't have any other currencies. The only currency they had in their purse was love, forgiveness, compassion, right? So therefore, that's what they spent. That was part of the trade. The other people stoned as the currency. In return, they gave compassion, love, forgiveness. This is beautiful. So, but to me, when I read all this, it becomes like, it puts a lot of pressure on me. Because we as a human being, we are reactions most of the time, right? And so in one way, it's kind of really, it's wonderful to create a discipline of mind, a discipline of heart, a discipline of behavior. We all agree this is one of the best forms to engage in the harshness of the other people. But again, according to Islam, life is test, and there is a constant jihad. There's greater jihad. So how much to apply this in life, this becomes a test. Personally, when I look at, from my own angle, but I'm truly amazed. I truly, love this when, kind of reflect on it. And there's another story I want to read. It's telling about different angle about who you are. Interesting, not the entire story, it's just kind of really part of it. So, quote, "A traveler was wandering through a town, searching for hope, when he came across a crippled beggar, then an old woman getting beaten, and then the funeral of a baby, like a tragedy in the village. He fell into a spell of pain from despair, famine, destruction he witnessed. Then I just kind of really skip a part. He screamed and said, 'Oh God, why don't you do something?' That's, I think most of people cry today, right? Why is there so much war, cancer, and hatred? Why must children be homeless? Oh God, why don't you do something?' And the poor man dug his knuckles into the hot sand and screamed until he fell into an ecstatic state. And he heard the divine reply, 'I did do something. I created you.'" It's a beautiful story again, to me, telling about our potential, right? Our responsibilities, again, along with the responsibilities as well, to not complain only, but to feel what potential we might have, right? To care about other people, to be concerned with others, to go beyond yourself. So those are definitely beautiful, beautiful way to approach to yourself and about who you are. Okay, so we are kind of really approaching to the end, right? The 7:54. Again, this book is such amazing that we can actually keep reading, like almost like every page I have a lot of highlights, and notes next to it. It's absolutely beautiful. But at this point, I just want you, if any of you have any final comments before we really wrap up, the conversation. Yes, Carl.
One thing I particularly liked about the book is its emphasis, a very delicate emphasis on the infinite, the infinite of God's grace, the infinite of God's mercy, the infinite of God's love, the infinite of the universe, the infinite of our potential. It opened up the world to me in a way that I had sort of vaguely thought about before, but this really did it in a beautiful way, in a very, very beautiful and powerful way.
You are absolutely right, because part of about who you are, she is referring that infinite, and then therefore part, if I can find, she is kind of like, do not find your strength from yourself and find from the infinite power who created you. There is another scholar in Turkey, it's called Said Nursi. He says, like, let me just try, I hope that I can translate, from Turkish to English, this kind of constant way. So he says, I trusted relying on the infinite power. How can I care? No, relying on into the infinite power, back in, getting him to be back in me, that I do not care, or I do not scare from anything in the universe, because I have the infinite is on my back. So, and then I think finding the power of infinite within yourself is so interesting. Therefore, most of the time, those spiritual scholars, because they transcend from their own self through, like, again, I think with the Zen master's statement, they pour their wave into the ocean and they become ocean. Once they become ocean, that's become part of the infinite. Therefore, you infinitely feel powerful, but not because of you, because of you are part of God. I think that is so true. Where you look at the Jesus, where you look at Prophet Muhammad, where you look at all these divine worldly figures, they like Prophet Abraham, like that. Therefore, she puts over here, interesting. She says, like, I never told you about it. Look at the prophets' professionals. So they are shepherds, they are homeless. That's kind of, she puts, if God make, a shepherd, a homeless, or that, like the others, to messengers, to ambassador, that's kind of look at the, the background of the prophets. So, but those prophets never despair. They had the infinite hope. Look at Jesus, look at Moses, look at Abraham, Prophet Muhammad, because they truly understood God and connect with God, and they had this power with them. And I feel like, I think we can each test in our life, like kind of from the moment when you kind of have this feeling. I think whatever challenges you have, you come over all those challenges, but you need to truly have the concentration and feel in your heart. Personally, there are moments where the moments of the despair, where the moments that I feel it's not going to happen, then personally, I try to convince myself, look, Akif, you feel this not going to happen, it's impossible. But every impossible is possible with God. So then if you believe that God, makes everything, and then he can actually make this happen for you as well, believe in it. So when I change my faith, my mind statement, most of the time I see that things happen and changes. It's interesting. I think it is with the connection then, not your power, with God's power, then you kind of connect, and then you see the things, change. This is wonderful, Carl. I think to feel that infinite power with you, where you are finite, you are weak, you are, almost nothing. But in the other hand, you are given such a potential to access such an infinite resource to really make your own, source. Thank you. Any sisters like over here? Assalamu alaikum, sisters. Where are you joining us from? If you don't mind to just unmute yourself and tell, about which part of world that you are joining us. Nurina, you are, no, we cannot hear you. Okay, your mic is not working. No problem. Okay. Nabia?
Yes, can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay, so Walaikum Salam. And so me and my also two friends here, we joined your event from this online site. which was also recommended by one of our friends. To me, I feel that this session is very interesting because it shares related to a book about how beautiful the Islamic as well, and also the Quran session sharings as well in the book. So that's why me and my friends, we decided to join the session and also to hear about the comments and also the discussion that happens throughout the session.
Thank you so much, Alistair. Thanks so. Where are you joining from us, sisters?
Sorry, what does that mean?
Okay, which part of, are you from United States or from other country?
The three of us, we're from Malaysia, actually.
Malaysia, mashallah.
Yeah.
You know, mashallah. We are international tonight from Malaysia. So is there sahur time or iftar time? What's the time in Malaysia now?
It's 7. It's close to 8 in the morning actually, so it's already past sahur time.
Okay, guys, for the non-Muslim, sahur means the early breakfast for the fasting time, Ramadan. Muslims get up before the sunrise, have the early breakfast, we call sahur. So it seems they already started their fast and we are about to break our fast, iftar time, about few minutes, sisters, you know. We just rotate. You start the fast and we are breaking our fast. Mashallah, mashallah. Mashallah means for the non-Muslims, you know, God willed and it willed in the best way. That's kind of the reactions when the Muslims interact each other. They call mashallah for the things they want to really positively share their reactions to remember it's a goodness from God, you know, that it is. Thanks so much, sisters, mashallah, from to all the rest, the other part of the world to connect with the United States over here. Now we are truly spiritual now. Yeah. Okay, any final comments before we end tonight? No, I really sincerely thank you all for joining tonight. It's very like for me again, reading the book and joining this kind of you know, discussions, I kind of forget my flesh. You know, I kind of really feel my, you know, my spiritual side. But now we have learned we are in fact spiritual being, right? Not mean to be spiritual. So hopefully I will struggle to do more on this one.
Can we do this again?
Carl, can we do this again? You know, I mean, if you like, we can definitely do it again. But next time, I kind of ask you to kind of let me to speak less, then you talk more. If that's going to be the case, yes, we can. I'm just joking, you know. Yes, if you want to do again, let me talk with Christina, inshallah, God willing means, and I'll maybe would you like to do sometime like in May, end of May, or what's really time period that you want to have the third session?
Maybe in a month or so. Yeah.
Okay, so like maybe the third week of May or end of May will be good.
That would be
Okay.
good.
Okay, excellent. I will talk with Christina, inshallah, and we'll set a date and send an email to everyone. But again, I really loved it. You know, by then, hopefully, inshallah, you will, you know, be finishing with the book, come with your highlights, because to really to listen to you, that's what I will really love to see next time. Definitely, I will jump in whenever is needed. You know.
I have a quote.
Sure.
I have one. I have an.
Please. Yes.
The Quran is not meant to only be recited. It is meant to be taken in like the fragrance of a rose. That's from page 106.
Wow.
I love that.
Wow.
When you think about inhaling the fragrance of a rose.
I mean, this is for the Muslims, especially if you understand Arabic. Like we are in the month of Ramadan. When I drive my car, I listen Quran. But there are beautiful reciters. Like there's reciters when it's like the song, the way that Quran is being recited, read in Arabic. So in fact, during the night time, by the way, in the month of Ramadan, every night we go Tarawih. Tarawih is the night prayer. I go to mosque around 9:40 p.m. until 11 p.m. during month of Ramadan. I'm at the mosque and worship for an hour. So when I go in the nighttime, drive to mosque and return from the mosque, and I open to turn on my Quran and listen. In fact, this exactly, I do kind of smell the fragrance, not, that's interesting way that the way that you kind of feel inhale to your heart is very interesting. What she puts is, in fact, most of Muslims engage in the Quran in that nature as well. It's absolutely true. Absolutely true. It's a different statement. But thanks so much for sharing. Really appreciate it. By the way, those are all subjective things, right? We are looking from the divine law from Islam as a religion. We have respected Christians, maybe other faith followers over here. But those are all the things that I share is subjective to the Muslims, right? That's what we share, try to understand the divine law from the Islamic perspective. That doesn't mean to disrespect any other faiths, disrespect to really nominate the no. With all respect, all other religions, kind of sharing personal stories and experiences with each other. That's what we try to do over here. Okay, thanks so much and really appreciate. And I look forward to seeing everyone and hopefully more, inshallah, sometime in the end of the May.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye. And good morning to our sisters. Right?
Good night.